watching Faith and Reason, a talk show about God, politics, and pop culture.
Welcome to Faith and Reason, a program that looks at a variety of topics from a Christian point of view. Again, my name is Pastor Rick Spence, pastor of Fort Lee Gospel Church, and with me, Pastor George Crespo from First Baptist Church at Cliffside Park. We've been doing this for a while, and we want to come and tackle a topic today about the issue of pornography in our culture and some of the implications and responses from a Christian point of view. Some would argue that we live in a sexualized culture. There's images of women used to sell all kinds of things, and obviously there's serious pornography, which I believe runs almost comparable to legitimate movie business. There's as much money made in the pornography industry of movies as there is in the Hollywood movies as well. But we want to tackle that, and first of all, Pastor George, what problems would you say come from pornography in terms of our society, issues that we face and implications that come from this?
Well, certainly there are many problems that come from it, and obviously in doing this topic we know that as pastors that it's not just a non-Christian issue. Mm-hmm. It's very much a Christian issue because there's a lot of men in churches who possibly on a weekly basis are tapping into pornographic sites on the internet, and so it becomes very problematic. So for us as Christians, certainly on a spiritual level, it becomes very problematic because it hinders our maturity in Christ. It hinders us the way we grow as men in Christ. You know, the scriptures are very clear that we're to avoid things that are lustful, things that are evil that way. Jesus said if you look at a woman lustfully, to commit, have sexual relations with her, you commit sin, you commit adultery. So again, that kind of looking with intent to sin is obvious when it comes to pornography. There's no question as to why you're looking at it. It's not even looking at a film and letting your imagination grow wild. It's actually looking at a film where there's no doubt what they're doing and why they're doing it. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, it hinders the individual from growing spiritually. And certainly when we hear that in the Bible, of course, Jesus is not saying that we can't look at a beautiful woman. It's taking that thought further. But porn just obviously takes it all the way. Also, it affects men so far as the issue of how they look at women. A lot of men who get addicted to porn, and they have real issues when it comes to intimacy. They have real issues when it comes to relationships because they look at women as objects. And obviously they're comparing their experience to the experience of what they see on the tube, whatever it is. And so they very much dehumanize women. And women no longer are a creature created in the image of God that you have a relationship with. It's just someone that you're using to gratify some sexual fantasy of yours.
Yeah. I mean, as you're talking, and I guess there's a lot of different ways we can take this, but to begin with, wouldn't it seem that feminists would have a problem with pornography and the women's movement? And in one sense, you'd think that this would be one of their key issues, but I don't hear too much about that. I mean, is that fair? I know you did more the reading on it and looking into this topic.
You know, when I was younger, I do recall that feminists made a big deal about it. And I remember many times when I was in New York and I'd be walking and I would see these booths and stuff like that where feminists were attacking it and saying this is wrong. But I think maybe in part they've kind of backed away from it because women are also heavily looking into pornography. You know, 1/3 of the people who tap into the internet's websites to watch porn are women. So it's just not a man issue anymore, it's a woman issue also. And so of course, in some sense they do see it almost as empowerment if they take it that way, where sexually they're looking for gratification, self-gratification at that also, because obviously you don't need a man for that. So maybe it's just that different perspective where they're doing that. But yeah, I don't see the same kind of thing, same kind of focus on it.
That's interesting because it almost seems that it's one of those topics where you know, you seem like there's common ground between the church and a Christian perspective, you know, which is obviously opposed to the objectification of women and the issues that come from pornography, the destructiveness of it. And then you'd say, well, the feminist issue, you know, they're fighting for equal pay, equal rights, and if you're, you know, if a woman's going to walk down a street in a skirt and guys are going to do catcalls, I mean, that doesn't seem very empowering to women.
Well, there is a movie that just came out recently, the Don Juan movie, and I've not seen it, and you should not see it. And definitely, I heard there's a lot of graphic stuff in there. But seeing clippings from it, the woman who plays the love interest of this young man is a woman who obviously sees it as something disgusting, horrible, objectifying women, treating them as objects. And in a case in point, here's a young man who's struggling because he's trying to have a healthy relationship with this beautiful woman, but he can't because he has other relationship going on with porn. So again, I think it's a very honest way of viewing it, and you see that it's not just a Christian thing. It's here is people in a pagan environment realizing there's something wrong, that this person can't have a normal relationship with a young woman. He turned to this stuff.
Yeah. No, it's a big issue in the culture, and certainly we live in a culture that only a couple of years ago went from the majority of households are now led by single people, not married people. And as more and more people are single, then pornography becomes a part of the equation, because not all single people are out, you know, with multiple partners or in a regular relationship, and so therefore, you know, pornography fills a gap for too many people, and that's a sad part of our reality. Do you think society views pornography as negative or wrong or evil? I mean, what would you say is the spirit of the age, in terms of how do people respond to it? Or,
you know, at first it looks like it's almost treated in a very innocent type of way. You know, you hear many times saying, "Well, hey, come on. At least there's no sexual immorality. There's no passing of AIDS. It's like safe sex." And you hear the kind of humor about it. But then you see, when it comes out that some famous movie star has a porn addiction, has a sex addiction, then it becomes an issue. Then you're aware that there's a problem there. Or in this movie, obviously being portrayed as something that's negative. And so society, you know, I guess it's like those things where society permits it and thinks it's okay, it's wonderful. But I think they're realizing that there's a problem going on, especially since it's now men and women, and you can start going down now to children.
Right.
It's getting younger and younger because of the internet. You have a lot of kids who have access now to pornography, and so I think society's aware that there's a problem here. I don't think they see it completely. They don't see it from our perspective as sinful or wrong, but they do see something that's not kosher about it. Something's not right about it.
I wonder if it's almost parallel to the issue of drinking. You know, everybody accepts going out to drink on the, you know, kind of as celebratory situation or the weekend. But when someone's an alcoholic, then we say, okay, that's where they draw the line. And, and it's an arbitrary line.
And look how we did with smoking. Smoking was treated like it's okay. Every movie you saw, people were smoking. It's everywhere you're smoking. Now there's this whole big ban on smoking.
Right.
So, I mean, I think it's just because they became aware that, yeah, it sounds great, but now you have a problem. Now you have a huge problem. And now you're trying to fix the problem. And I think they're aware that they have a problem. I just don't think they're going to be able to fix it the same way they fixed others, because it's destroying the way young men think about relationships and think about women. And that's not going to be, oh, just stop it, and your mindset will go back to normal.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you made allusions to it, but the internet has changed this conversation in many ways. How would you say, you know, access to pornography through the internet has made a difference on this topic?
The internet has changed everything, because now you don't have to go out and buy a porn film. You don't have to go and go to a movie theater to see a pornographic film. You just go into the internet, and you can go to any website or do whatever you want to, or rent movies through there in ways where nobody else knows about it. So it's that kind of easy access. I mean, before you would hear people saying things like, "Oh, you know, when I was young, you know, I went to somebody's home, they had pornographic material," or, you know, when HBO became available, Cinemax, stuff like that, they saw pornographic things that way. But now they don't have to. Right now, you know, you can just go on the internet and you can watch it, and no one knows that you're watching it.
Right.
You know, no one's tracking that. No one's going to know that, hey, you know, you're a deacon or you're a pastor or you're whoever, and you have a problem with this. So it has become much more pervasive.
Yeah, yeah, clearly. I've even noticed one of the changes for positive is that it used to be you go to 7-Eleven or to a convenience store and there'd be images, there'd be magazines that would be for sale.
Yeah.
That seems to have, you know, I don't know if you'd say it's gone away, but it's just not as prevalent.
Yeah, but it's gone underground then.
It's gone underground.
Which is worse, because now it's something that it's visible, but it is dominant.
Yeah.
You know, I saw a stat that said that if you take per household, per person in America, 5 times going into the internet every single day, means that it's like if you took every person in the United States, it's almost like they're clicking into porn 5 times a day. Now, obviously, it's not everybody in America. So
no. So
you can
people
imagine some people just
lot.
clicking and clicking and clicking.
Yeah.
So they're going from one porn site to another, downloading, doing that. And of course, it's gone to even more deviant behavior where people are child pornography and stuff like that. But yeah, it's all there. It's like it's accessible. It's accessible, and a lot of these people who have problem with this, they all state, you know, the cases that I read, they all started young, between 9 and 12 years old, exposed to pornography, then experimenting more with it. Then, of course, when it became easy through the internet to have it, you know, it became almost like a substitute for a relationship. You're so busy with your career, so busy with this, with that.
Yeah,
That's it. And of course, we know that masturbation produces a chemical reaction that makes the body feel good. And so, of course, that's why, you know, it's another reason people do it, because they realize what it creates within them.
Porn and youth, did you do some reading? I mean, we're now, there's now a generation of young people who are, you know, are very familiar with the internet, and I think I read somewhere that there's been more exposure of this young generation to pornography because of the internet, because of easy because access is easier. And certainly, you know, as a parent, you know, my kids are late teens now, but it's, when they're younger, you worked hard to protect them from, you know, making wrong turns on the internet, so to speak. And certainly it's still, what are some of the issues of youth and pornography right now in terms of just, you know, kids growing up with it?
Well, it's just gotten worse. It's just, again, when you were young, you may have had to go in search of pornography. You know, when I was a kid, it was a question of trying to find that magazine or trying to get some guy who knew my mom or something to pass some material to me. Today, a kid doesn't need that.
Right.
A kid just goes straight into the internet and they watch whatever they want to watch. And again, a child doesn't know what it's doing to their mind and what's it doing to their lifestyle. You know, they're just thinking it's fun. Right. And all the cases I read, the kids were at first repulsed by it. But of course, the intriguing aspect brought them back, and before you know it, they were hooked on it. Yep. So yeah, it's gotten much worse. And I think that when we talk about the next generation, I think it's going to be much harder than it is. It's going to be more difficult to deal with their problems than it is right now, because we're talking about a whole generation that is living on the internet.
Listen, you've been watching Faith and Reason. We're talking about a difficult topic, and that's the issue of pornography in our culture. We're going to get to some of the ways of dealing with the issue. We're going to take a quick break, take a look at our church first, and then we'll talk about First Baptist as well. So hang in there. We'll continue the topic in a moment.
There's no better way to start the week than to come into His presence and dedicate the rest of the week to Him.
I like the children's church downstairs because we learn a lot of new things and we have a lot of cool teachers.
We believe that church is a place that enables a person to be healthy in life, where we get to know other Christians who share our struggles and have similar concerns that we have,
and then you come together as believers. So that only enhances and pretty much strengthens your walk with the Lord. Like, you need to fellowship with other believers because that's how you grow.
You could do anything here because it's just free and you can learn about God.
You can't do it on your own, and you can't say, I'm just going to read the Bible and I'm going to stay home. Like, you need to be in fellowship.
There's a clip on Fort Lee Gospel Church. Again, we welcome you to join us anytime, but also First Baptist, the two churches have worked together in doing this program. Tell us a bit about it, Pastor George.
I'm from First Baptist Church, Cliffside Park, which is 7 Anderson Avenue. Our service is Sunday at 10 a.m. We have Sunday school, followed by the 11 a.m. Worship service. Wednesday night, we have a prayer meeting at 7:30 p.m. where we also study the Word of God. We have a website, firstbaptistcp.org, where you can get information about our church as well as listen to sermons.
We've been tackling the topic of pornography, its pervasiveness in our society, just the easy access through the internet. Maybe we should work on some solutions. We probably, first of all, there's the aspect of protecting our children growing up in this society. There are filters you can put on your computer. There's different ways of responding to that. But there's also the issue of, somebody watching today is either struggling with pornography for themselves, maybe they're even a wife who knows their husband has issues. What are some ways that we can help somebody or we can help ourselves in terms of dealing with this issue?
Well, I think first of all, you mentioned the filters, which is very good. But first of all, I think a person has to admit they have a problem. Just like just like the AA type meetings where you have to admit that you have a problem. If you don't admit that and you're not really ready to seek help, no one can help you. And so that's the first step. And then you have to really build a relationship of accountability. Many places that are helping people will tell them that they need to have someone that they're responsible to. Now that can go further, and this is where I found it very intriguing. They actually have programs you can go to on, there's a website called xxxchurch.com where you can actually tap into that, and you can actually sign up in a way where, let's say for example, I'm struggling with pornography and I want to be accountable to you. There'll be a way of connecting our computers that if I tap into pornography, you will get a message that lets you know that I've done this. And then you can hold me accountable. So I mean, because it's not just
a weekly report.
Yeah, because that kind of thing, I can just get away with saying, "Oh no, Rick, I haven't looked at it. I'm doing fine," and all the while I'm struggling with it. But this way, by having my computer tapped in that way, you'll get a red flag that lets you know, hey, he just slipped. He had a problem. So I mean, anyone who's really that serious about doing this, that would be the best way to go. Because I'm telling you, it is a huge problem, and they have a lot of organizations. Also, there was a pastor who actually had a problem with porn, and he lost his ministry, lost his wife, lost everything because of his addiction. He started a program called Dynamic Living for Men, which is a multimedia service that again helps them to learn how they can deal with their problems. Because again, the problem is just so pervasive that he realizes there's got to be something beyond even the church, because the church really is not as equipped as it should be to deal with this problem.
Right.
But I would say the best thing is admit it and accountability. If you make yourself accountable through that kind of strict sense, great. And if you really have a problem with porn to a point where you cannot control yourself, then you might think of how do you live without a computer, which some men actually chose to just altogether, they got rid of all computer, all things. And they just had to be honest when somebody said, "Oh, let me send you an email." They said, "Well, I can't." And it just made them that much more accountable.
No. I think, and I think both of us in ministry, it's hard not to be in ministry and not eventually talk to some men, or I don't think I've had a conversation with women about this, but some men who struggled, and usually it's best men with men, women with women in that sense.
Good point. That's important.
Yeah, it's important. It's hard to share that. Have either a woman counselor. Usually, women don't quite get the way men think, and vice versa. But But that said, just for an accountability sense.
Yeah, but not
same
even
thing.
that. You don't want to go in a situation where you're actually telling your pornographic promise to a woman.
Right. Especially
Because-
if she's not your wife.
Because
and you are
then
married, yes.
you're going into issues of temptation on another level.
Right, right.
Where you're
that
sharing
creates
very
trouble.
intimate issues about your life with someone who you don't want to build that kind of connection with. And same thing with a woman.
Yeah. And I'm with you 100%, and from some of my experiences in having conversations and some counseling along the way, you know, you're absolutely right. It's the accountability factor, and knowing that somebody else is either going to find out about whatever the person's doing, or else at least have that report. Someone to ask the hard questions. Very important. Would add one other small thing, and that's it's been helpful in some circles to say, to break an addiction, whether it be pornography, whether it be something else that's an addictive kind of issue in our life, fasting is a wonderful thing. You know, fasting food is a way of almost creating a self-discipline. As you deny your body natural food, you know, maybe it's a 24 hours drinking water only, whatever it might be. But fasting is one of those spiritual disciplines, and it's other religions practice it in other forms as well. It's a very common discipline in various religious traditions. Jews fast, obviously, you know, Hindus, Muslims fast. But in Christian tradition, it's to fast. It has a way of breaking things that hold us, and I know that's a general answer to what can be a problem of pornography addiction. But also can speak to other areas of addictive behavior. Matter of fact, I think that's one of the best things that someone's got a drug addiction, alcohol addiction, whatever, trying to break smoking habit, go to fasting. And I think that's, again, not broadly talked about, but it's a good insight. But as far as the issue of pornography, you know, it's a delicate thing to address in a church context, in a public setting. Any thoughts on that? How do you deal with it? I know you preach every Sunday. You lead Bible studies.
Well, again, I only deal with it on a personal one-to-one basis.
Yeah.
I have covered some of the stuff from the pulpit, but not as often. People are always uncomfortable when you mention things like pornography or sex or masturbation. God forbid I use the word masturbation. Like, I remember the first time I preached.
We're on television. This is like
I used the word
There's a lot of
sex,
people watching
and some little
Yeah.
lady came to me after church and said to me, "Why I even use that word? Couldn't I find another one?" And I was
For
like,
sex.
"Yeah, I had a hard time." You know, I said intercourse doesn't work.
Yeah,
But yeah, it is a problem. And again, because it is viewed as such a horrible sin, I think it's difficult for men to confess and to come out and admit they have a problem. But from the stats that I've seen, from the things they have been able to bring out, we're talking about 50% of men in churches have some sort of addiction to pornography. Not simply that they're viewing pornography, they have an addiction. So much so that they were trying to do a research thing to see what kind of struggle people had with it, but they couldn't find a control group of men who didn't watch porn.
Wow.
That's how bad it is within
Yeah.
our society.
Right.
But yeah, I would say, again, the best thing is that accountability. You know, I would say that building healthy relationships with you know, hey, if you're such a sexual creature, well, you know, go out and date, find yourself a good woman, get married, and channel your sexual energy through that rather than, you know, than through pornographic material.
Yeah. Well, easier said than done. Somehow, a couple clicks on the computer strikes most
Well, that's the
people as
problem.
easier. That's the challenge.
The problem. The
That's
problem is that it's
challenge.
always there.
What about Hollywood? Do you think Hollywood is pushing the envelope on this topic? You know, like we reference and this is probably one of the reasons why we're tackling the topic is, you know, the movie Don Juan. We didn't see it, but you know, reading reviews, it's Hollywood dealing with pornography itself. You know, do you think Hollywood's getting worse on this? Obviously,
Yes.
what was 1950s, you know, did not show the nudity that today's world does. How would you respond?
It's not only gotten worse, it will get worse because soon 50 Shades of Grey
Right, that's
will
coming.
become a film.
Right.
And that's, again, pornography aimed mostly at women because women love to read this kind of stuff. So, no, you know, Hollywood is a two-faced creature. And, you know, on one side it looks like it actually wants to help, and it comes out with films that are like, shows the problem. But then on the other side shows films that are indulging in those type of things. And when 50 Shades of Grey come out, it will be an indulgence of pornography. And not only pornography, but bondage. And so they're going to encourage, again, a younger generation to become hooked on this stuff.
Yeah. No, it's unfortunate. And it almost seems like in Hollywood, you know, serious actresses at some point do a nude scene for whatever I don't quite get the logic of that, but it seems to be a part of the culture of Hollywood. And the challenge is, you know, Hollywood is a huge influence on our culture, as well as the people who sit in our congregation are, you know, as much as we try to encourage people to not embrace all the values of our culture.
But again, it goes both ways.
Storytelling.
On one side, it talks about the problems of a person who has an alcoholic lifestyle, but then on the other, it indulges in alcoholism and making fun of it or enjoying it, and it's all party. And there really is, it's a mixed message.
Yeah.
And I mean, which kid, what is the likelihood that kid's going to go see a movie that's anti-porn or a movie that's pro-porn? Yeah. And I'm telling you, 50 Shades of Grey, again, a phenomenal thing is, you know, this book sold big time with women, and now it's gonna be film as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, you know, we're dealing with an issue which was not an issue of the first century. Obviously, the Bible was written in a time when there was not the images that we have today. They did not have photography. They did not have film. They certainly didn't have the internet. And yet there are some principles, as you mentioned. Maybe we'll just, you know, come back to that. We have a minute or so left. Issue of, you know, Jesus said, you know, to look on a woman with lust is committing adultery of the heart. And there's issues of how we treat one another. Anything else you want to add?
Paul tells us flee immorality.
Right.
If you burn, get married. I mean, this is, again, even though back then they didn't have pornography like today, they still have pornography. And what they didn't have for pictures, they would have for drawings. And there would be drawings in different places that were pornographic and places where people can go into this stuff. So Paul was aware of the filth.
There was the Roman bathhouses and all of that.
It was horrible. It was just as filthy, just in different ways. And it was still extremely pornographic. And of course, Paul encouraging us to whatever is good, whatever is beautiful, whatever is you know, glorious, to ponder and to think on those things. Philippians 4:8.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, you know, and again, the positive side of all of this is as people are able to live, you know, in purity, we're able to have healthier relationships, men and women, able to, you know, as the Bible says, treat you know, young women as sisters or daughters or nieces or whatever the language you want to use, older women with respect, and men and women getting along together in a healthy way. We would be a much better society as we dealt with those issues. Any last thought, and we're going to wrap it up here.
No, again, that it is a problem, and I think that men have to be more honest. And if they really want to beat this, they just have to become accountable.
Okay. Listen, I trust that there's been something beneficial. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching Faith and Reason. Please join us again next week.